know those. Remember, Moses Austin secured the first and only impresarial grant issued by Spain. This allowed 300 families from America to settle in Texas. When he died, his son, Stephen F. Austin, took the place to lead them. Those 300 families are known as the Old 300 and represented the first immigration wave of Anglo-Americans into Texas. You need to know that fact. There's a university in East Texas named after Stephen F. Austin. All right, so major events, again, just not with the years listed. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Industrial Revolution. All right, so Industrial Revolution and immigration. The first Industrial Revolution was a period of rapid growth using machines for manufacturing and production. So Samuel Slater brought designs of textile mills, machines with him to the U.S. He is considered the father of the American Industrial Revolution and the father of the American factory system. Okay, so that's who Samuel Slater is. Then we had steamboat and steam locomotive development. The invention of the steamboat and the railroad created a transportation revolution that brought changes to America. Transporting goods to markets became easier and cheaper, and the national economy was formed because we had a way to move and market goods more efficiently. The cotton gin. You may get a random question about the cotton gin. This occurred during the Industrial Revolution. Eli Whitney's cotton gin made cotton processing more cost-effective. It increased demand for more cotton grown and picked, which increased the demand for slaves. All right. Now, the plow and reaper. This is something I wouldn't have included on here except for, side note, funny story. I was getting ready to teach a class, and one of my students who had just taken the EC through 6 core subjects exam walked in my room, and the first words out of her mouth were, "What's a reaper?"
No, today.
I was like, well, let's read them. And then I was like the Grim Reaper? Like, Reaper? Where is this come from? She goes, on my test, they asked me something about a Reaper, and I have no idea what a Reaper is. So, here it is, on your slide. Because, to be completely honest, I had to look it up, because I didn't know either. And she even drew me a sketch of the picture. And she was like, this is kind of what it looks like. And I'm like, okay, let's look this up together. Let's learn. So here you go. Here's what my student and I learned about the plow and the reaper. In 1831, Cyrus McCormick developed a new harvesting machine, a mechanical reaper. So a reaper is used to harvest. Reaper, harvest. I made the connection of the Grim Reaper harvest souls. I don't really believe that, but it helps me remember reaper, harvest, okay? McCormick's reaper could quickly and efficiently cut wheat. That's all it did, cut wheat quickly. Later, in 1837, a blacksmith named, here's a name you're going to know, John Deere.
John Deere.
You know, John Deere Green, you ever heard that in the song? From the South, you probably heard the country song. He noticed that farmers were having trouble plowing thick soil with plows made of iron. So he designed a plow made of steel. By 1846, he was then selling 1,000 plows a year. The combination of John Deere's plow and Cyrus McCormick's reaper allowed Midwestern farmers to plant and harvest huge crops. It changed the farming industry completely. So that's why you need to know what a reaper is. And now you all know. And my former student who taught me that, thank you to you. All right. The emergence of the middle class also occurred during this time. So with new urban industries came new jobs. They were called white-collar jobs, and these are things such as shopkeepers, bank clerks, merchants, doctors, lawyers, teachers were created and expanded. This group was between the rich aristocrats and the low-income hourly workers. Okay? Now, during this time, we also had immigration. So by the mid-1800s, so we're moving from 1700s to the mid-1800s, many European immigrants traveled to the United States to begin new lives, all right? Many of these immigrants came from Ireland and Germany. The Irish immigrants were escaping the Irish potato famine, and the German immigrants arrived about the same time because the United States seemed aim to offer economic opportunity and greater freedom. So you have your Irish and German immigrants. An idea here you need to understand is nativism, and that's the policy of favoring native inhabitants of the country over immigrants. Many native-born Americans, to fear losing their jobs to new immigrants who might work for lower ages, really push this idea of nativism. Then you have the Know Nothing Party, which is a fun-sounding name, right? These nativists founded a political organization called the Know Nothing Party, which wanted to make it difficult for foreign-born people to become citizens or hold public office. All right?
Oh.
Now let's look at slavery, compromises, and sectionalism. Okay, so as we continue to move through history, we now start to see some slavery compromises and sectionalism emerge. So between 1789 and 1820, 7 new states entered the Union. And what this caused was an imbalance between those states that declared themselves as free states and those states that declared themselves as slave states. In order to resolve this balance, Henry Clay proposed or masterminded the Missouri Compromise, which had some details in it to try to reestablish that balance. Now, that worked for a little bit, but then when California applied for statehood, then it caused the imbalance to occur again. So, fortunately, Henry Clay came to the rescue again with the Compromise of 1850, and it had shaped the boundaries of the western states and had 5 separate bills within it, where Texas gave up its western land for some money. We have the Fugitive Slave Act was in there. Slave trade was abolished in the District of Columbia. New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah were established, and then California was admitted to the Union. So that was all part of the Compromise of 1850. And while that was popular, it worked for a while. We started to have more tension in between the years of 1850 and 1860. We start to see the Civil War occurring. Sectionalism, if we talk about that, that really started after the U.S. won the Mexican-American War, which stated in there, it was stated that slavery shall never exist in any part of the territory ceded by Mexico. So this created this growing debate of sectionalism, where we were favoring the interest of one region over the interest of the entire country. During this time, you had the Dred Scott case. This is one case you need to know in 1857. Dred Scott was a slave who lived with his owner in a free state before returning to Missouri, the slave state. Scott argued that his time spent in the free state should allow him to be emancipated. The Supreme Court decided that Scott was not entitled to his freedom, that African Americans were not citizens of the United States, and that the Missouri Compromise was unconstitutional. This decision in 1857 fueled the sectional controversy and increased tension between the North and the South, leading to the Civil War. All right, so let's talk about the Civil War in one slide. Okay, most of you are pretty familiar with this one, so I'm going to move pretty quickly.